There was actually recently a tweet from Meltem Demoris. I think she runs a VC firm called Crucible VC, and she talked about how DePIN as a category has like a lot of issues. Just because you're able to crowdsource data doesn't mean that that is a useful thing to do. And I think through my experience at Filecoin, we also realized that just because you're able to crowdsource a bunch of people who are willing to store data doesn't mean that it's a useful thing. It becomes useful when people are actually choosing this solution over like AWS, right? So our thesis is that the reason why someone is not choosing Filecoin over AWS or a deepened service over an existing Web 2 or traditional service is because the risk is too high, right? Or another way to put it is they don't know enough. It's like a black box for them. And because it's a black box, not enough people are willing to underwrite insurance, underwrite that risk. So it all comes down to, what is the data that is available that as a consumer, can make sense. Other service providers can, provide services for adoption of this service. And yeah, so I think that's how we think, the data AI coordination layer there, where we believe that, okay, in a DePIN network, you won't have a customer service department. So you will have a bunch of AI agents. I think that makes sense. It's not hard to believe. But then what is the AI agent trained on, right? You can't just train it on like, the on-chain data that is available. You have to train it on off-chain data. So in the case of, let's say, Filecoin, you need to know retrievability rates. You need to know data transfer speeds. You need to know what kind of energy are data centers using in their operations. And all of that information is critical for someone to underwrite insurance, right, or at risk. So I think those are the kind of things we're really bullish about. And so we see this data bottleneck, which we experienced firsthand at Filecoin, it's still unsolved. The world of like DePIN verification, the problem with DePIN verification is still unsolved. And so I think I believe that more people should start more networks and more DePIN services. But I think we have this like baseline fault of both centralization and lack of access to data that we need to solve for.
So we are talking about trust metadata. Is that a
Yeah.
good representation? So if
Yeah.
I take the new coin metaphor and the kind of like design space we both have been talking a lot about, I would
Hmm.
say it's the idea is you create the minute you create a system that is both abstracted, open, permissionless, anyone can join, anyone can participate, you
Hmm.
create an opportunity, you create a risk. And so there are different ways to mitigate that. One of them is proof of stake. So you create a game theoretical pressure where a node provider is going to stake something, and if things go wrong, they get slashed. That's the whole eigenlayer thesis. That's the whole, most of blockchain, starting with Bitcoin, started with
Hmm.
that. When you get into a world where DePIN is very diverse, very heterogeneous, it becomes more difficult to apply these kind of things, and also things become also much more atomic, like much more like fractionalized. And so applying staking into just like one interaction on a DePIN network becomes difficult. And so what
Hmm.
you are saying is that the use of AI here is to provide this safety mechanism that is made of predictions where not only you can predict, not only you can have some game theoretical pressure, which I'm sure can happen at some layer of like aggregation, kind of how insurance works. You
Yeah.
have an insurance company and they kind of abstract risk into an asset and then they
Hmm.
financialize that asset. Here you are saying for DePIN, you are adding a layer that grants to this decentralized network, this truly decentralized internet. So we are talking about moving from the internet of operators. Like today we have internet service providers, and you kind of trust them because they have a brand and they have like or a cloud like Amazon, to a world that is much more distributed, much more anonymous, much more abstract. And
Hmm.
therefore, you need to go much deeper into the definition of like what's a good operation, what's a good network provider, what's a good infrastructure provider. And this is also true.
And I think the thing about our current financial system is